There was a man who lived in the north whose name was Amittai. He had a son who was special because he heard messages from God. It was like God didn't put messages in a bottle, he put messages in a man. This man's name was Jonah. He was used to hearing God's message and telling it to the people of Israel. That was all fine and good. It was good to be a prophet. Until one day God said, I have a message to put into you, but it's not for your own people, it's for a foreign people. He said, take a message to the city of Nineveh, that great evil city, because their evil has come to my attention, and I'm sending you with a message inside of you. Jonah thought he had a better idea. He went down to the port city of Joppa. He bought a ticket on a cruise liner, and he headed out for the city of Tarshish. Now, we don't know exactly where the city of Tarshish was, but we do know it was not anywhere near Nineveh in the middle of the desert. He went in exactly the opposite direction that God had asked him to go. Got on board the ship, went down in the hold, found a place to sleep. The ship pushed off into the Mediterranean Sea. The weather started getting rough. The tiny ship was tossed. If not for the courage of the fearless crew, the men would be made minnows and be lost. The men would be made minnows and be lost. God caused a mighty wind to come up. So there's this huge storm out in the Mediterranean. The ship is tossed in the storm. The sailors believe they're going to be shipwrecked. They start throwing overboard all the cargo. They're trying to lighten the load. They're not worried about getting to the destination. They're just worried about surviving. The captain goes down. He finds Jonah still asleep in the hold of the ship. He shakes him. He says, come on, what are you doing? Don't you know we're going to die here? Get up. The least you can do is pray to your God. Maybe he'll hear us. Maybe he'll save us. They went up on deck, and the sailors threw lots, like casting dice, to see who was the one of them who was responsible for bringing this calamity upon them. The lot fell on Jonah. They turned to him. Who are you, and what have you done that would make God so angry at us that we're all going to die here? He said, I serve the one true God, the one who made it all, the one who made the sky, the one who made the earth, the one who made the ocean. And this is all my fault. They said, what do we have to do to make the storm stop? He said, there's only one solution, fellas. Toss me overboard. They said, no, we couldn't do that. But the storm intensified. Finally, they gave up hope of any other remedy. They grabbed Jonah by his ankles and by his wrist. And it's 1, 2, 3. Plop. The instant his body hits the sea goes calm. The sailors are amazed. They become believers in the one true God. Meanwhile, Jonah, with a message inside him, should have been a bottle, but because bottles float and men don't. But here he is, sinking into the deep blue of the Mediterranean Sea, when at just the right moment, God caused a great fish to come, and God caused that great fish at just the right moment to open its jaws, and at just the right moment to swallow Jonah. Inside, Jonah found air. He found a place to stay alive. Now, I don't know if this was a regular fish, or I don't know if this was a special fish. All I know is a great fish swallowed him, and he stayed alive for 3 days, which you may remember comes up later in the story. While he's inside that fish, Jonah had time to reflect. Now, I have swallowed a lot of fish, but I've never been swallowed personally by a fish. But I think if I were swallowed by a fish, I think it would provoke some reflection on my part. I think I would begin analyzing some of my more recent decisions. You know, where did I go wrong? That I wound up inside a fish. Sushi for breakfast, sushi for lunch, sushi for dinner, 3 days in a row. Where did I go wrong? And Jonah knew where he'd gone wrong. Jonah had a change of heart. The fish had a change of stomach. And the fish most conveniently vomits Jonah out right on the shore. He's on dry land. So there he is on the beach, covered in whale vomit. And the word of the Lord comes to him a second time and says, you know what? I'd like you to take my message to the city of Nineveh. Jonah said, yeah, I get it. I'll go. So he begins the walk to Nineveh. Now Nineveh is the capital of the empire of Assyria. These are cruel, barbarous people. They're taking over all the neighboring kingdoms. They're famed for their torture techniques. And here goes lonely Jonah trudging toward the city of Nineveh. That city, the ruins are still there today, right across the river from present-day Mosul in Iraq. He has a rather unusual missionary method. He has a rather sad missionary message. Here's his message. It's not a message of peace. It's not a message of prosperity. Here's his message. 40 days and you're all going to die. He walks a block inside the city. 40 days and you're all going to die. 40 days and you're all going to die. The amazing thing is, the people of Nineveh respond to this message of gloom and doom. Yeah, he's there 40 days and you're all going to die. And they say, what should we do? What should we do? From the king right on down to the lowest slave, they repent of their evil and violence. They change their ways. The king issues an edict. He says, everybody, animals included, are not to take food or water. Who knows, says the king. Maybe this God of the universe will relent from sending the evil he has planned for us. Who knows? So the city relents. The city repents. So the story's over, right? No, it's not over, because Jonah is furious. He's hopping mad. He says, I knew it, I knew it, I knew it. Talking to God. This is why I didn't want to come here. I knew what you were like. I knew that you were a God who was gracious. I knew that you were a God who was patient. I knew that you were a God who abounds in love. I knew that you were a God who relents from sending the calamity you have intended to send. And that's why I didn't want to come here. Now see? He picks up his stuff. He walks outside the city. He finds a little place just outside the city, builds a little lean-to. He sits down in that lean-to. He crosses his arm. He waits, hoping that God's still going to fry him. God says to him, do you do well to be angry? And he says, yes, I'm angry enough to die. God causes a shrub to grow up over Jonah. I mean, just like quickly, like super fast, a shrub grows with great broad leaves to provide him protection from the noonday sun. And Jonah is happy for the shrub. I mean, if you're gonna watch a city be torched, you might as well watch it in comfort. That night, God causes a grub to attack the shrub. The shrub dies, shrivels up. This shrub that was created for shade and for green and for goodness is now brittle and broken, and now there's no protection from the next day's sun. Then God causes a great wind to come from the east across that broad expanse of desert. A dry wind. It beats upon Jonah. Now the sun beats upon his head. He's dying from the heat. And he's still consumed by this anger. And he says again to God, kill me now. Just end it here. Get it over with. And God says, so let me make sure I've got this straight. You're angry enough to die, right? Yes, I am. And you're angry enough to die because this shrub that you didn't plant, you didn't water, you didn't make it grow, you didn't have anything to do with it. But that shrub that was created for goodness, it's died and it's no longer of use to you. And that's why you're mad, right? While at your feet lies a great city. A city teeming with people. 120,000 of them are so innocent, they don't even know their right hand from their left hand. Plus, God says, think about all the animals are there. And do you do well to be angry about the shrub? And that's one small part of God's big story.